So first, who am I? That's me. I sort of look like this. You know, I was so excited with these mugs. I got my little Android on my mug out there. But just a little bit about who I am. I'm Greg Schechter. I'm the web warrior at YouTube. And I like to carry around, like a shield and a sword with me because it kind of goes well with the persona. But the security here was just too intense. They didn't let me bring it into the country. But next time, maybe I'll see what I can do. So I'm the tech lead on the Html5 player. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome, and I'm pretty excited about it. So the first thing is Html5. It's awesome, it's great, it's brand new, it's got a lot of buzz about it. And so, what is it? Maybe not everybody knows, but how I like to describe it, we have HTML5, we have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We added a whole bunch of awesomeness, and this is sort of what I like to think of as what Html5 is. All these new technologies, all this new stuff. So they added a lot of new features. And we have the ones that we focus on at YouTube, multimedia, graphics, and storage. So this is one example for storage is like local storage, store things offline. But YouTube, it's about videos, it's about cat videos. So multimedia is really the one that we focus on, and the one that I'm going to talk about. So a translation for this, if anybody's in sales, maybe you're not technical, you're still not sure what Html5 is, well, it's about unicorns and rainbows. That's how I like to think about it. Anyway, so then, YouTube's been around a long time, and we have this great Flash player. Flash has been in the industry a long time. They are like the chief when it comes to video, and it's everywhere. 99% of connected desktop penetration. It is anywhere that it's because it's been around a long time. They really have taken the market there. So why do we have this Html5 player? We have this Flash player. It's great. It's good. It's been working. Why Html5? So this is the question that we're sort of going to look at and answer. So we wanted to just do a comparison between the two. So we're like, all right, we looked at features, accessibility, a word that I made up called deviceability. We'll get to that later, and a few other things. So the first thing we looked at, features. What can Flash do? What can Html5 do? So Flash, it's got a lot of cool stuff. The first thing, is content protection. We can't do this in Html5, at least not yet. And this is very important for us. And so they have different protocols, MPE, Flash access, to get your content secure. And for YouTube, this is very important for rentals. We don't own all our content. It's very important that we can secure it in some way. Cat videos, it's not that big of a deal. But the next thing is camera and microphone access. We have a lot of people who come to the site, they produce all these great videos, and half the time they're just sitting in front of their webcam, filming something. And this is changing today. Opera has released something to access the webcam already, so we're very excited about that. This is going to be changing soon. The next thing is full screen, and this one's even changing more so. People are checking in code for this like probably today. And because, when I'm watching my cat videos, I want them to be hardware accelerated and full screen. It's very important. So right now, we have an API available. It's in WebKit. It's in a stable version of Chrome. It's also been checked into the Firefox nightlies, which is great. And so just to give you a little example of what the code might look like, it's very simple. You have any given element like this, and you can just say you have an event. You just want to say, all right, when it changes full screen, I just want to log that I've gone into full screen. And then I can call on any element, request full screen, and I'll do that. So let me just show you a quick little demo of what we have now. This is one of my favorites. I don't know if you've seen this. It's not cats, but it's still kind of cute, fuzzy animals. And we click full screen. And it's great, it's working perfectly, and this is Html5.
You crazy little chicken.
I love that chicken.
Whoa. Hedgehog's got a new flat screen.
Anyway, moving on. So the next thing that Flash is doing really well, we have a consistent format for Flash. We have H.264. It works in all of our different platforms. Flash will read it, and it's great. For HTML5, we actually have to worry about another type of encoding. So we have WebM. And WebM is awesome. You know, we've been seeing some great results with using this new encoding, but it's not available everywhere. And when we have this huge database of all these YouTube videos in H.264, getting them to also have a WebM encoding is very time consuming. So at the moment we have Opera and Firefox who will only do WebM. They do other video formats, but as far as YouTube's concerned, this is the only one that we worry about. Chrome will do both. Although they're going to be losing support for H.264 sometime soon. And then Safari and Internet Explorer only do H.264, but you can get a plugin, at least for IE9, that'll allow you to do WebM. But it makes it very difficult to do HTML5 when you have to make these other encodings. And at YouTube, we got a lot of people, a lot of smart people, a lot of machines that can do this, make the conversion. It's taken some time, but it works. For other people like Vimeo, they haven't been able to convert everything over to WebM yet, and it's sort of hindering them a little bit. But new sites shouldn't have too many problems if they start from the beginning and do it in both formats. And then the last thing that Flash does really, really well is it's consistent across platforms, and that's really great because as I'm sure some of you guys have done and worked in web development, and it's very difficult when you're like, oh, IE6, it sucks. And then IE7 comes out and you're like, oh, it still sucks. But Flash works. Little issues here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent. You don't have to worry about it. And so this is something it has going for them. So then what does HTML5 have going for it? And the first thing is like we got all these great open source technologies, open source browsers, players, codecs, and it's really helping to move things quickly and create really great products. And the next thing is, because we don't have a plugin to instantiate anymore, we should be able to get better performance. Just speed it up, lower latency. Everybody wants their cat videos right away. And then because it's integrated with the browser, it should have better performance and fidelity. Running Linux especially, my Flash plugin crashes all the time. If I close my computer, bring it back up, it's usually gone. HTML5 seems to work without any issues. But I mean, it's Linux, not everybody uses it, but it definitely does have sort of a better life experience, I guess. And the next big thing is accessibility, and if you guys were in the talk before me, accessibility is really important, and it's kind of cool, and the different things that are happening. And this one is great because this one just blows Flash out of the way. And so we do a lot of things with accessibility, and one of the things that I think is really cool is our captioning service. And so it's very important when the internet comes by and we're like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, we're going to just put captions in your cats. And so we have a platform for people to do this. So let me give you a little example. So this is the Flash player, and we have captions here, and these translations, I have no idea if they're accurate. These ones are machine translated, so if it's wrong, it's not my fault. But so the interesting thing here is when I'm using the keyboard. So at the moment, my cursor is up here. How do I get to the Flash player? How do I interact with the player? Well, I can tab around the page, and I moved up here now, and I keep going, and all of a sudden I'm down here, and I missed the Flash player. I don't know what happened to it. I couldn't get to it with my keyboard. If I click on the player, then I can actually tab around in the player, interact with it, but I'm stuck. I can't get out. And this is not a very good user experience for anybody who can't use a mouse. So what do we have in the HTML5 player? Well, it's great. I can just start tabbing around, and already I'm in the player interacting with it, and hopefully those captions are translated so that you can read them. But it's a much better experience. So, oops. So accessibility, huge win, really, really easy, and this works cross-browser, great. So everybody, please put on your 3D glasses. I think they were handing them out earlier. I got mine. Do you guys not have them? Oh, okay, that's okay. No, I'm just joking. I did bring a few. I don't know if I have enough. Talk to me at the end, and if you ask questions, I can give you one. But so 3D is really cool. You know, people were gathering around the 3D tables. It's neat, and there are all these different ways that we can do 3D. And it's, again, sort of like how do we work with Flash and HTML5. So Flash has a lot of different options. If you've been to YouTube and you've tried out our 3D features, we have a lot of different choices that you can have, and you know, HTML5 being the last one. So why can we offer all these different choices for Flash? Well, it's sort of, the platform's built for doing graphics. It's very easy to modify the streams and put things on top of each other and alternate between what you're showing if you want to do like the active shutter glasses. It's made for that. HTML5, we have to integrate other technologies into it. It's just not as fluent, it's not as easy. But luckily, there's a standard developing, and we can, and this will be, you know, integrated to the browser. It'll be easy, and anybody could do HTML5 just like that. And today, if you come to YouTube and you have certain NVIDIA drivers and the correct hardware and stuff, you can watch HTML5 video with active shutter glasses. It's really cool, great experience. It's much better than the, you know, the red and blue glasses that I have here. But so this is exciting. I'm really excited to excited to see what happens here. Putting YouTube videos in 3D on mobile devices will be pretty cool. So the next thing, deviceability. So what does that mean? So it's sort of basically, where does Flash live? Where does HTML5 live? Where do I need these technologies? Where do they exist? And it's you know, because HTML5 is new, it's not everywhere. And Flash, even though it's old, it's also not everywhere. So first, you know, we looked at people who are coming to YouTube with a browser, and the breakdown is roughly like this. 60% of people who come to YouTube through their web browser can even have the opportunity to get HTML5 video. A huge chunk of that is Chrome, but also, you know, Firefox and IE have very big slices as well. And mobile is actually really small. It's this little sliver here. A lot of people experience YouTube in different ways. They use the native devices and other ways to watch their cat videos. So it's actually a pretty small percent of just people coming to us in the browser, especially, you know. And so the world kind of looks something like this. We have all these places that support Flash, a fair portion that support HTML5 as well, and the tiny little sliver where it's only HTML5. This is mostly iOS devices. There's a few other things in there. I know some game consoles don't have Flash and will do HTML5. So, but it's sort of like that. Now the interesting thing is when we looked at the people who were coming to us, wanted to build applications off of YouTube using our APIs, the world kind of shifted. And it was like a complete opposite. Everybody wanted to build stuff for HTML5 with the YouTube player, and, you know, on Android and iOS, and these places where Flash couldn't exist. And so that was really cool to us, and that was great. And so instead of why HTML5, the question turned into when HTML5, because we needed it. People wanted it. We had to deliver something for them. So the first thing we did, our first solution, was just to recover playbacks that would have been lost without Flash. And so our solution to this, something very simple, we came up with this Iframe Embed. And it looks like this. It's pretty simple. It's easy for anybody to copy and paste, put it on their website, and all you need is the little video ID here. And there you go. You've got a YouTube video on your blog or somewhere else, and you don't have to worry if it's Flash or HTML5. Great. So what did this enable us to do? Well, we got to deliver HTML5 or Flash based on the device and based off of the user's preferences. And this really allowed for better mobile support and offers this, you know, just works sort of experience. So sweet. We've got, you know, we got embeds working. We've got all of our playbacks covered. Now, some of you might want to try out the Html5 player, see what it's like. So to get there, it's pretty simple. There's a little link at the bottom of any YouTube site, any YouTube page right here. It says try something new. And you can see all the things that we're working on, HTML5 video. And if it's easier to remember, the URL for it is youtube.com/HTML5. So you opt in. Maybe you're forced in because you're on an iOS machine, or we're just sort of playing with you and want to give you HTML5. So the first thing we say, all right, does your browser support HTML5? So this is an embed, and we don't actually know what our video formats are yet. Most people don't click on embeds to watch them, so we haven't delivered all the content that we need to actually play the video right away. So we just take a quick look. We say, all right, can I create a video tag? And then does the device that I'm on support H.264 or WebN? Because we might have streams for both. So as long as we can support one, we're going to move on, and we're going to see, all right, can we give you HTML5? So next thing, we wait for them to click on the video. We gather all this information. We're looking at the streams, and then we say, all right, any logic reasons we can't play this? Sometimes videos are private, and we just sort of do a little check. Then we look at the formats. We're like, all right, if we're in Firefox, do we have a WebM stream? If we're in Safari, do we have an H.264 stream? And after that, if that's all good, then we're winning. If not, we'll fall back to the Flash player, or we might fail out if the device doesn't have Flash. So it's pretty simple. So after that, after we have this working, performance, that's what we had to worry about, which one's better. And remember, this is the battle for faster cat videos. So we wore helmets, or at least we put helmets on our cats. And so the first thing that we looked at, something called player start time. And this is basically the first bit of code that's related to the player. So this is when you see that little spinning icon, or on an embed, it's like, maybe until you see the thumbnail, it's right. It's the first thing that lets you know that the player is executing code. And so HTML5, great. It's a half a second faster. Like, big win for HTML5. That's fantastic. And this is up a lot from back in January. It was only 200 milliseconds then. And the interesting thing is, I don't think we've actually done a lot of improvements. I think this is mostly on the browser, because our player has just been getting more features and getting bigger, but yet this number was able to go down. So that's pretty cool. That's exciting. It's faster. Great. And then the next thing we look at is something called get video time. And so this is, so this is a little snapshot of sort of what it looks like when you're loading an embed. That these times are exaggerated a lot. It was the environment that I was trying to get this slideshow in just wanted to give me really slow numbers. But the comparison from our data is pretty accurate. And we'll see this in action later, how much faster the HTML5 player loads. So the next thing we look at is something called get video time. And this is, there's some non-trivial amount of work that needs to be done. Maybe do we serve them a stream that has quality 360p, or maybe 480, maybe we'll want to give them HD. There's some work that needs to be done to figure out what needs to happen before we can actually send that network request to get the video stream. And this is actually some pretty cool numbers from what we saw from the breakdown. So the first thing, HTML5, just looking at the HTML5 browsers, Opera is kind of awesome. All of them are really close, doing really well, but for whatever reason, Opera was ahead of the pack by about 200 milliseconds. And they don't get a lot of credit a lot of times, so it was really impressive and great to see this. On the Flash world, it was both IE9 and Opera who were the leaders, and they were about 300 milliseconds faster. Again, you never hear IE getting a lot of talk about performance, because they're always pretty far behind. But when we see it here, it was actually doing pretty well. And then looking at HTML5 versus Flash, HTML5 is almost always faster, about 300 to 400 milliseconds faster than our Flash player, except for IE, where the Flash was actually slightly faster than the HTML5 version. So after this, we've sent the request out. We're trying to get the video. Now we actually need to start watching it. And this is where the tables sort of shift. And we see it's about 2.5 seconds slower in HTML5. What the heck? Everything else was faster. These technologies are supposed to be great. Why is it so slow? And the answer is, I don't actually know. I'm going to blame it on the browsers, because I don't want to take the blame myself. But it's actually really difficult. So there's a lot of things that are going on. And I've been working with the browser vendors to make sure that we are doing our best to make sure that it's as performant as possible, and they're doing their best. And so this number changes pretty quickly. or it's been changing really recently. I've been working a lot with Chrome, and they've been making a lot of improvements. So every version it gets faster and faster, and hopefully, if I ran the numbers today, it actually might have switched. Because they made a lot of improvements, and this number is a little bit out of date. And this number is also for all HTML5 and Flash videos. Looking at Chrome, it's a little bit better. And one of the things that we're learning about this is it's actually difficult to measure. Some of the browsers have some errors in them. They don't tell us when the video started to play correctly. So we think that a portion of this number is just a measurement issue that the browsers are fixing. But when I have a demo later, we'll see the two videos playing side by side, and hopefully HTML5 will win. It doesn't always, but we'll see. And an interesting thing is Firefox is actually the closest to catching Flash. So their HTML5 version is only a second slower than Flash. But Firefox 8 just came out. I haven't had time to run the numbers yet. They might have even made more improvements, which would be great. So why is Flash so fast? What have we done to make sure that the performance of Flash is as speedy as possible? So we make assumptions. One interesting thing is people who come to the website, they almost always have the most recent version of Flash. So generally, you'd have to see what version they have and serve them something different if it wasn't up to date. But we're going to be optimistic about it. We're going to say, all right, most people are going to be up to date. So let's give them the up to date version. And then after the page loads, we'll check. We'll see, all right, did it work? Did it fail? And then we'll give them the older versions. And when we did this, we actually saw a 250 millisecond improvement to the Flash start time. So that was a great win. The other thing we do is we're going to preload our video connections. And so once again, we make assumptions on what stream the user is going to watch, because some of the code does happen in the client, but we can just sort of, at the very top of the page, we create just an image tag, set the source to our video URL, and this will open a connection, resolve the DNS, and it'll stay open. And so when we did this, it was about a 200 millisecond improvement. And one thing that I saw really surprising was, since the browsers keep updating things, keep changing these things, is I broke this a while back, and then we did the improvement again, and we still saw the same number. It was still 200 milliseconds improvement. It didn't make a difference, even though when we first did this, it was a few years ago. So what about embeds? Embeds are a little different. Like I said, most of the embeds don't get clicked on, so we're not loading all this data. So we really are concerned with caching here. So the first thing, we used to have our embeds. They looked a little bit like this. We had a nice, pretty URL. This would do a 302 redirect to this little tiny loader Swift. This was pretty small, and then we'd serve in a versioned Swift for our player. And that worked well for a while, but then we realized, well, what are we doing this redirect for? That sort of seems wasted. So we got rid of that. This then became just a Flash application, and then we could load our version Swift here, and then this would be cached. Great. So that's better. But then we have this Iframe embed. We were like, all right, we can make it even better. We're just going to serve text and HTML. This is really, really small. And then we have our version Swift here, and that gets cached again. So lifetime of the Flash player, it was great. We've been able to we've been able to improve things a lot by going to just a text-based system. So the next thing we want to do is lazy load. So like I said, because people don't play all of our videos, well, why do we need to load this big Flash player? And why do we need to know the HTML5 player? Can't we just have a little static, page with just HTML that shows the play button? So like as you can see, this is the Flash player here. This is the HTML5 player, and they look exactly the same. All right, I'm lying. I actually just copied the picture from one to the other, but you have to trust me. They look identical. And so this is great because we can just serve a little image with the play button on top of it, and we can wait to the user to click to actually load that big Flash application or the big HTML5 player. So So let me show you a little demo, the two players side by side. Can we see that? Great. So the top is this is the Flash player. This is the Html5 player. They look pretty much the same, which is great because the first time I give this talk, they actually looked very different. So we've improved a lot. And when I refresh the page, we see the Html5 player comes in a lot faster than the Flash player. So I can show you again, really quick. Great, big performance win. We're pretty excited about that. So now let's actually try to play the videos at the same time.
Hi everyone.
And very exciting, the Html5 player wins. This wasn't the case a long time ago, so I'm very excited to see that. Now granted, I did test this a little bit before. I might have primed the caches a little bit to get a bit of an advantage. But luckily I made sure that none of the guys who work on the Flash player are here, so they don't have a chance to defend themselves. So let's load a new video. Let's see if this one works any better. And this time, it looks like the Html5 player is doing really poorly. So sometimes it wins, sometimes it doesn't. I didn't cache this one, even though this is a lovely one. This was our April Fool's joke. I thought it was really nice. This is YouTube 1911 was what we called it. So the next thing is, so you saw me clicking the buttons, and how did I do that? Well, I used an API. So we have a public API available. We've had one for the Flash player. You can go to this link. It's actually a lot easier to just search for YouTube JavaScript API in Google, and you'll get there. But because we have this new type of embed, we had to think of a new API. So with Flash, we were able to bind functions to the DOM. It was easy. It worked great. Now with an iframe, we can't do that. The API, the DOM doesn't give that us ability to bind things in the same way. So we had to think of a way to communicate with the player. That was the first thing we had to think of. So the first way to communicate with the parent to something that's in an iframe is you'll see people using the fragment of a URL. And this works cross-browser. It's not all that, you just change it, it works, it's great, except it's got a lot of problems. Your messages are very one-dimensional because they're strings. You have to pull from both sides, and so this is going to eat up a lot of your CPU, and it's not going to be instant. And then this is the really tough part, is both directions of communication are using the same fragment. So it's very easy to accidentally overwrite something that you had to send along, or to read the wrong message. And so this was messy, and we didn't like that. So instead, what we went with is something newer, something called post message. This is a great API. On any window, you can call post message to send a little message and the target origin where you want that message to be sent. And this doesn't have the same browser compatibility. It's not supported in IE 6 or 7, which we're okay with because the web's moving forward. We're trying to get rid of those anyway. And what we did is we said, all right, if you need to worry about IE 7, just go ahead and use our own form of embedding because you probably don't want HTML5 anyway. So what does this give us? We can use native JSON encoding to encode and decode our messages. Great. And also, we don't have to poll anymore. We can use the native event listeners, which is what the rest of our code uses, to send messages back and forth. And now communication is sandboxed per window. We're not overriding stuff. This is great. The one thing that's a little tricky here is if you have multiple players on a page, they're all sending messages to the same container. And we had to think of a way to make sure that we realize what player was sending what message. Simple ID makes this really easy. And now the thing that's a little tricky is the calls are asynchronous. So when you call post message, you actually have to send, it's not going to happen right away. And so for something like get current time, an API function that you expect to return immediately, it doesn't quite work so well. So what we do is we just store the state of the player both in the iframe and out. And this was a way that we could solve it easily. So it might be a little bit out of date, but if we update it constantly. So in conclusion, sort of overall, Flash is still our preferred player. It's got more critical features, deeper reach. Like I showed, it's got better performance. Our numbers are better. But HTML5 is really awesome, which doesn't always matter, but it is improving every day. We have a lot better mobile reach, and people really want it. People want to build applications, and I don't think it'll be that long until we're going to be able to see HTML5 be the preferred experience on YouTube. I just got to fight the Flash guys for it. So, and last, if you guys have questions, please come and ask them. Oh, and by the way, I know that the recruiting team out there is really looking for talented web developers. So if you're interested, please go talk to them. Please talk to me. It's great. Yeah. Right, so Adobe just announced that they are dropping support for their mobile Flash player, which is awesome for me. Terrible for the Flash guys. So this is really interesting. I'm really excited to hear that. But at the same time, they're still supporting their desktop version. So we still have to live with Flash for a long time, and they're still doing a lot of great work there. We'll have to see what happens. I have no idea what their timeline is for that. I know at Google we announced that we were dropping support for WebM, but I think that was over a year ago. So they might not lose it anytime soon. Yeah. Right. So at YouTube to get the highest resolution, there's a account setting that you can say, give me HD if it's available in full screen. Because right on the page, it's a per pixel thing. So if there's only 480 pixels across, what good is it to give you a higher quality video for that? So there's a setting that you can change it for full screen. And in the API, you can actually specify what quality you want. So, a few options. Anyone else? Questions? Yeah.
What can you say about the mobile side?
What about? So the YouTube application on Android is not something that I work on. It's not something that even my team works on. So I don't know the details there. But we've seen a lot of people, trying to build applications, build native applications using YouTube. We have WebView support for that, which is great. It's a little bit tough to get it working right away, just because it's pretty new and people are trying things out and learning best practices there, but it's working. I've seen some great applications built on it already. So.
Not like they use Html5
So they use our iframe embed, and then it gives them the Html5 player because they don't have Flash, or it might give them the Flash player if they're on a device that will support that. So the iframe embed makes those decisions for you, so that we can give you the best user experience. But the API will work the same no matter what the player is. Sometimes it'll actually switch between the two players, and it all works. So yeah.
Any experience programming live streaming videos?
Live streaming. Very excited. So. We have this in Flash. We have live streaming. We have a lot of cool things. We can switch qualities on the fly. It's great. It's set up really well for that. They at least give you the ability to build that. HTML5, well, it's coming along. There's a standard that's being worked out, that's being discussed. I know that there's currently code checked into Chrome for that. You can already do HLS streaming in Safari, so that'll give you both desktop and iOS support. It's on my to-do list to actually do that as well, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But that's coming. The standard's still being developed, but it'll be here. Making sure your live streams are secure might take a little bit longer to figure out, but this stuff is coming. So yeah.
You showed us numbers on the load time, on the play time. One thing that's really, for me, is the battery draw. which one drains the battery faster, HTML5 or Flash?
Flash drains the battery faster, but I don't have any numbers for you. And that's one of the big reasons that, that Apple doesn't have Flash, because they really care about their battery life. I think more than Android does, because the phone I have dies, by the end of the day. But they're like, when they think about these things and they're worried about adding extra stuff, they're like, well, what will this do on the battery life? And so HTML5 is definitely going to be better for that. And that's sort of part of the reason why they haven't enabled some of these APIs too, because you can do crazy things and drain battery faster. So that's their concern when making more APIs and enriching the video tag is definitely concerned with battery. We do not have any plans to integrate WebGL. It's not something that we've needed to do. So, yeah. Sorry? The Chromeless player. The Html5 player works exactly the same. Sometimes it has a little bit more bugs, which are my fault, but I'm working on fixing them. But you can use the Chromeless player just like you can do the Chromeless Flash player with the Iframe Embed.
I don't believe you mentioned anything about hardware acceleration.
So hardware acceleration is pretty cool. It's kind of different for each browser. Chrome has it in now for HTML5 video. You're watching a video, it's going to be hardware accelerated. It's going to be great. And full screen and stuff. Safari has been doing it for a while. I think it's not live in Firefox yet, but I think it's definitely checked in and working. I know Opera is the reason that they postponed Opera 12 is because of hardware acceleration. So it won't be available in 11.6, but it will be available in Opera 12. I don't know, other than what version it came in, I actually don't know the details about it too much. Certainly in Flash, they've been doing hardware acceleration for the last version, and it's been working pretty well. It's a little weird. They're figuring out some bugs with it, but it's pretty cool. Yeah. Ubuntu and the I don't know. At least I probably can't say. Who else? Was it backwards? Right. Did I have them backwards? Is that what happened with the captions? Oh, how do? It's based on the language. On the language, it'll do it the right way. I don't know the spec off the top of my head, so don't know. I'll look into it. You back there.
When you were handling the issue of supplying either HTML5 Flash from Embed, you used an iframe.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reasoning behind using an iframe versus using like a generic JavaScript?
Yeah, so there's a few ways that you can embed content. You can so like with Flash, you can use an embed tag. Doesn't work for HTML5. You can use an object tag, and you can actually pull in resources that way. But you're not going to be able to bind functions to it. So object tags out of there. With using a script tag, well, it lives in that person's page, and it's going to be affected by that person's CSS. It's going to be affected by their JavaScript, and for our player, well, we couldn't have all these extra things affecting it. So by using an iframe, it makes sure that our environment is sandboxed and that we can deliver a player that has that correct user experience, and that the buttons aren't all like 40 pixels too big or whatever, which is what you would get if you were to just embed it directly with a script tag. Because the YouTube player is more than just a video tag. There's a lot of extra things going on, certainly with like just the controls are our own. You have captions and annotations and 3D and other features that we have to integrate into it. Anyone else? Yes.
Back to the iframe. The problem is the iframe functionality of the website. Use all functionality of the flow. Analytics, embedding, how do you get around development? The iframe is not
So I didn't hear the entire question. I got the fact that it was.
the iframe is not a viable business operation standpoint. We're losing the flow, going out.
So from our perspective, building an iframe, we can still track it. I mean, it's our page, it's the JavaScript. For anybody who's using the iframe, they can certainly, they know when they're embedding an iframe out there. If you're, those views that people are getting still count, so they can see them on YouTube, they can see our analytics. So I don't think that it actually changes the situation than like the object tag for Flash embeds. So let's talk after, so I can understand the question and the situation a little bit better. But yeah. Any other questions? Sorry? Sure, there are other platforms to watch YouTube videos out there in different codings, and yeah, I know the guys there, great guys. So cool. I think I don't actually have any idea how much time is left. Who's next? We're done? Oh, okay. Well, thank you.